Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there is a ton of news stories to get into today. So let's start off talking about Brock Lesnar and his next appearance for WWE. Now, when we always talk about Brock Lesnar, it's always, when is he going to show up? When is he going to appear? He's only got a select amount of dates, a select amount of appearances. Now, obviously, we know that Brock Lesnar is going to be facing Roman Reigns at Crown Jewel. For the Universal Championship, he appeared on SmackDown on Friday, but it looks like we won't have to wait too much longer for another Brock Lesnar appearance, because Brock Lesnar looks like, and this isn't confirmed right now by WWE, but it looks like Brock Lesnar is going to show up on Monday Night Raw tonight, something that I predicted in yesterday's video. So Brock Lesnar, of course, made it known Friday night on SmackDown that he is a free agent. He was not drafted to any particular brand on night one of the WWE draft, which could mean that the Beast Incarnate will not be bound by one brand or the brand split, like that means anything, but he's not going to be bound by one brand. In fact, reports are suggesting that the former WWE champion could show up on Monday Night Raw tonight. Now, PW Insider is reporting that there is a belief that Brock Lesnar will be at Raw this week for night 2 of the WWE draft. They also said that there is a chance he will sign with Raw, given that he called himself a free agent. This is what PW Insider said, quotes, Insider also notes there is an expectation that free agent Brock Lesnar will show up on tonight's edition of Monday Night Raw on the USA Network. Now, of course, the former Universal Champion returned to WWE at SummerSlam this summer and has been involved in a program with the current WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns. The two stars are set to clash at Crown Jewel later on this month. However, even if he does become the Universal Champion, he could end up signing with Monday Night Raw. I mentioned previously, and I mentioned this in the video that I did yesterday, that I'd heard a couple of reports and we'd heard those rumors, hadn't we, that Lesnar was going to be moving to Monday Night Raw, or during the draft, Lesnar was going to be drafted to Raw, or whatever that may be. I don't know if he will, to be honest with you. I mentioned this before. For me, my theory and my feeling on it is that the reason they've decided to have Brock Lesnar as a free agent is that they're keeping their options open, WWE. They don't really know. They don't know who Brock Lesnar is going to feud with next after Roman Reigns. It might be Bobby Lashley. If it's Bobby Lashley, if Bobby Lashley stays on Raw, then Brock Lesnar will just show up on Monday Night Raw. If they want him to feud with Drew McIntyre again after their last match at WrestleMania 36, he can just show up on SmackDown. I think the idea of him being a free agent isn't a case of, oh, the drama's going to be which brand does he sign with. I think the drama is going to be, where is Brock Lesnar going to show up next? Because he can show up anywhere he wants. He's got a different contract to everyone else. We know Brock Lesnar's different. And in real life, he's on a different deal to everyone else in that he only shows up a select amount of time. He only is contracted to certain matches per year. Basically, he shows up when he wants for a lot of money. And why not put that into storyline? So the idea that Brock's a free agent, to me, isn't a case of, oh, eventually the storyline's him going to be signing with Raw. I see it as a bit like with John Cena. He's going to show up wherever he wants. It doesn't matter. He can show up wherever he wants. So I don't know if the story would be that Brock, signs with Monday Night Raw. Maybe that will happen tonight. Maybe it will be a case of that's what closes the show. And that what closes the show is him saying, look, not only am I signing with Monday Night Raw, but I'm bringing the Universal Championship with me once I beat Roman Reigns at Crown Jewel. Maybe that does add a bit of drama to Crown Jewel as well. I don't know. We've seen, when it comes to the story that's kind of been the seeds that have been planted for Raw tonight, the Usos, of course, weren't drafted during SmackDown, and Roman Reigns had said to Paul Heyman, you go to Raw on Monday, you ensure that the Usos get drafted to SmackDown. If they don't get drafted to SmackDown, he's then told the Usos, look, if you don't get drafted to the blue brand with me, make sure you leave Paul Heyman for dead on Monday Night Raw. And I can kind of maybe see an angle whereby maybe the Usos don't get drafted to SmackDown. Maybe they do get drafted to Raw, and then the closing moment of the show is the Usos and maybe even Roman Reigns himself coming out. That looks like they're going to attack Paul Heyman, and then Paul Heyman grabs the microphone and goes, look, I got you. This whole time, this whole time you suspected that I was working with Brock Lesnar. This whole time you thought that I knew Brock Lesnar was going to show up at SummerSlam. Brock Lesnar's been honest this whole time. He told you that I knew about SummerSlam. He told everyone on SmackDown on Friday that I got him a contract, that he's a free agent. Yeah, I'm with Brock Lesnar. And guess what? Brock Lesnar's here tonight. Out comes Brock Lesnar, F5, holds up the Universal Championship. That's what closes the show. And then you've got 3 weeks of a Raw Brock Lesnar who signs the contract to close the show that he's on Monday Night Raw versus a SmackDown Roman Reigns. Where's the Universal Championship going to end up? And where is, what's the future of Roman Reigns and the Bloodline, considering that the Usos now are on Monday Night Raw and Reigns is all by himself on SmackDown? That's a bit of a cliffhanger. And I could see them going in that direction. But if I'm honest with you, like I said, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, but in my opinion, I see it more as Lesnar's going to stay a free agent and WWE are, frankly, just keeping their options open. But we'll have to wait and see. Raw's going to be a really interesting one tonight, not just because of the draft, but because, face it, the last couple of weeks, Raw's actually been okay, which feels crazy to say. But the last few weeks, Raw actually has been all right, which is a rarity, certainly. Let's talk about Lesnar still, though, when it comes to SmackDown. We have some interesting details when it comes to that backstage segment that he had with Jeff Hardy. Really good segment, actually. Really enjoyed that segment with Jeff Hardy and Brock Lesnar on SmackDown on Friday. Now, Brock Lesnar's backstage segment on SmackDown on Friday was pre-taped, according to a report by PW Insider. Now, Lesnar, of course, had a huge stare down with Roman Reigns to open the show. The segment ended with Lesnar putting down Reigns and the Usos, but later on in the night, the Beast Incarnate interrupted Kayla Braxton's interview with former WWE Champion Jeff Hardy. This is when he revealed himself to be a free agent, but we have some extra details regarding this. So as per PW Insider, Brock Lesnar actually left the arena following his attack on the Bloodline in the opening segment. Lesnar's backstage segment was reportedly pre-taped. So that kind of makes a bit of sense, really, doesn't it? Because, look, Brock Lesnar, we know promos aren't his forte. They're just not. And given the amount of verbiage that he actually said, I was watching it being like, because you don't know how many takes they did of that. Although when it's Brock Lesnar, you tend to think like he would just grab the microphone, say his piece, one take, I'm out of here. I'm going to go back to my dressing room or whatever. So it wasn't surprising because when I saw it was that slick, because arguably, since Brock Lesnar's come back to WWE, not this time around, but just since 2012, that was probably the best Brock Lesnar promo we've seen him do. And one of the longest. I mean, obviously, before Heyman came back, he did do some promos, but they were god-awful. And part of the reason for Heyman coming back was that those promos that he was doing were god-awful. So, like I said, I really enjoyed the segment on SmackDown on Friday with him and Jeff Hardy. I mean, look at Jeff Hardy's face during that whole period. I really enjoyed it. I really did. So, I'm enjoying this new Brock Lesnar. So, for so long, the Brock Lesnar we had become accustomed to, and maybe they will revert to their old tricks when it comes to Brock, but for so long, the Brock Lesnar character, I'm not going to say it was stale, but it felt very rinse and repeat, didn't it? You know, Paul Heyman comes out, cuts the promo in the ring, Brock Lesnar jumps around, leaves. I mean, the deal that he's got and he was doing that, man, more power to him. Honestly, more power to him. But this version of Brock, you know, the ponytail, the beard, the flannel, the Viking, the lumberjack, whatever you want to call it, the babyface, I'm digging it. I really am digging it. It's different. And he feels like a loose cannon anyway, but especially now. So I found those details about that backstage segment to be interesting. Speaking of Brock, though, we have some more Brock news. Very Brock Lesnar heavy today. I apologize. But some more Brock Lesnar news, and it's that Brock Lesnar and fellow WWE veteran, former WWE, I guess, I'm not going to say employee talent because he's no longer under a WWE contract, but WWE Hall of Famer Ric Flair are both scheduled for upcoming interviews on the Joe Rogan Experience. The official website of the Joe Rogan Experience podcast features a tentative list of future podcast guests. Now, in an updated list as of September 30, 2021, it consists of two big names from the pro wrestling world, one being Brock Lesnar and the other being Ric Flair. Now, the list dubs Flair as a, quote, retired professional wrestler. On the other hand, Brock Lesnar is listed as, quote, current WWE Universal Champion. Shows how much they know about the pro wrestling world. They also list him as a former WWE and UFC heavyweight champion, which, of course, is accurate. Now, Lesnar was seemingly close to appearing on Joe Rogan's podcast back in 2018, 2019-ish, with Joe Rogan making comments about the same. A short while ago, Rogan heaped major praise on Ric Flair and added that he'd love to have the Nature Boy on his podcast. Flair then posted a tweet about this. I think if you've watched Joe Rogan's podcast, he has mentioned a few times or discussed Ric Flair. I think there's even a video that's got quite a lot of hits on YouTube or views that is Joe Rogan reacting to Ric Flair's interviews in like the 80s and all that kind of stuff, and just Joe and Ric Flair's highlights, if you will. Look, they're going to be interesting. I think whenever, because this is outside of the WWE world, And look, Flair doesn't need to have approval by WWE to do it because he's not under contract with WWE anymore. I doubt Brock Lesnar gives a shit about what WWE approves for him to do or not. So the Flair one's going to be fascinating considering current circumstances. And I don't know when the interview was taped, in fairness, but the Flair one's going to be fascinating to see if they bring that up. If it was recorded after Dark Side of the Ring, whether they address that or not, that will be fascinating. That will be really, really interesting. The Brock one, look, Brock Lesnar is not a PG guy. Brock Lesnar is not really a modern society guy, if that's the right way of putting it. So they're going to be fascinating. Look, when The Undertaker did the Joe Rogan podcast, he got quite a bit of backlash for some of the comments he was making about pro wrestling and just in general. And it would be interesting to see what people react to. Certainly Flair's one and to Lesnar's one. Lesnar interviews, you never know what to expect, ever. But they're going to be fascinating. I tend to think that with the Lesnar one, they'll probably focus more on the MMA stuff. And obviously they'll touch on WWE, but they'll focus on the MMA stuff as well. There's a lot of MMA stuff to get into when it comes to his UFC career. It'd be interesting to see if they reference the UFC 200 fight when Lesnar tested positive and it turned into a no contest in his fight against Mark Hunt. It'll be interesting to see if they talk about that at all and all that kind of stuff. So I'm fascinated for the Lesnar. I'm fascinated for both, obviously, but certainly they're going to be interesting to see nevertheless. Finally, a couple of other things actually first. The draft I want to talk about. There's some update when it comes to the draft. We've heard these horror stories in the past, haven't we, when it comes to the draft, about WWE superstars or talents finding out that they were switching brands at the same time as everyone else. It's these horror stories. You hear them. So sometimes they're so bad. You hear them, watching a monitor in the back, and their name comes up, and it's like, oh, I'm moving to Raw. I had no idea about that. And some people may say, well, what's the big deal about that? The issue with that is sometimes they might be traveling with a partner, or they might be traveling with a friend, or their whole schedule and their home life is centered around them being home on whatever night of the week, and then everything changes, and they're like, well, you could have told me, like a little bit of common courtesy, oh, by the way, your entire travel schedule is changing, or you better find someone else to travel with because you're on a different brand now, all that kind of stuff. Jim Ross, infamously, found out he was moving to SmackDown on the air. This isn't just backstage, on the air he found out, oh, I'm moving to SmackDown. Oh, Michael Cole's just taken my job. That's happened in the past. But WWE reportedly made a slight change during this year's draft regarding WWE superstars finding out their status, because PW Insider is reporting that talents scheduled to switch brands were told about the same shortly before the official announcement. This was done to make sure the superstars wouldn't be caught off guard. As I mentioned, in the past, WWE used to inform only the top stars ahead of changing their brands. Others would find out about their brand switches at the same time as fans. But, of course, that didn't happen this time round. So the thing is, doesn't that feel like the minimum? I'm reluctant to praise WWE for that. Go, oh, well done, because that should be the minimum. We shouldn't have talents finding out at the same time as fans. That's the way that they're kind of living their WWE life right now is changing, right? Again, that just goes down to being a good employer, does it not? I don't know. I don't know what that is, but interesting, and I'm assuming the same will happen tonight for night 2 of the draft. Finally, on SmackDown, we got an official announcement when it comes to the King of the Ring and the Queen's Crown tournament. We'd heard about this for months, that it would be culminating at Crown Jewel in Saudi Arabia. Now WWE has made it official because WWE's popular King of the Ring tournament is making its return. A women's version of the tournament called the Queen's Crown will debut as well. Both tournaments will begin on this week's season premiere episode of SmackDown on Fox. Baron Corbin was the last King of the Ring winner. As of now, stakes for both tournaments have not been defined and participants have not been announced. So again, we knew this was going to happen. It had been widely reported, but now it's official. Again, it's difficult to say who I think will win it and who I want to win it, because when you don't know the participants, you don't even know who really to root for. I hope they involve Xavier Woods. I know Xavier Woods has made a big deal out of it, and it feels like, especially with the New Day, WWE's champion at the moment is Big E, and Kofi Kingston had his moment, Big E's had his moment, and I don't know if Xavier Woods is ever going to be a WWE champion or Universal champion. But he said that he doesn't really want to be. He would love to win the King of the Ring. Give him that moment. And I know it's not a case of just everyone doesn't get what they want. I get it. It's a business at the end of the day. But why not? Who else should there be? I think an Xavier Woods would be great, or even someone like an AJ Styles. I mean, maybe it's a tournament to get younger talent over and establish younger talent. That's fair. What did it do for Baron Corbin? Not a lot. You know, he feuded with Roman Reigns for like 6 months and it did nothing. So why not give it to Xavier Woods? As far as the Queen's Crown tournament, I'm very nervous that Charlotte Flair will win it. Very, very nervous because she's the queen, right? I don't think she will. Again, I think it should be a way to establish a younger talent. I think a Liv Morgan would be great to win it, or someone like that. Again, whether or not she does win it, I don't know. I think with the first winner of it, they might want to have a Charlotte Flair or a Sasha Banks or whoever, because then it gives the tournament some credibility, maybe. But that makes me nervous. That makes me very, very nervous. But time will tell whether or not they go in that direction. But look, guys, as always, it's just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on all of these WWE news stories you've spoken about today? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about WWE, AEW, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to get involved with the community. Drop a comment below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button too. Really does help us out here on YouTube. Got the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or having come across this video today.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.